And the joy of LinkedIn is that you can get right to the right person and that they can see what you're building in the world. And it's like you're building your resume in front of them. Those LinkedIn DMs are where I've been getting all of my contracting opportunities. People just come to me and they're like, hey, Jamie, can you do this? And I'm like, yeah, that's fun. Today we have on one of my best friends and a truly phenomenal PharmD, Dr. Jena Quinn. And if you don't know Jena, she is taking pediatric care nationwide by storm. Jena used to run marathons and she traveled and volunteered in third world countries. And now she's juggling 3 little girls and is living and breathing all things pediatric care and really revolutionizing the role of the pharmacist in the United States today. So Jena, thanks for hanging out with me for half an hour and talking about your journey and what it is you've created and you're in the middle of creating right now.
Yes, of course. It's always great. Since Jamie has been my business coach, what is it, like a year and a half ago now, or like a year ago? Yeah, it's always felt like hanging out with a bestie. So it's a pleasure.
I know. It's been fun. And I want you to tell your story, Jena, because you have a very traditional story and then it's like
goes off the rails.
Tell us about your history in pharmacy, like a 1-minute resume leading up into entrepreneurship.
My grandpa was a pharmacist and he was always my mentor. And then my sister had epilepsy growing up. And so between the two, my mom is a nurse. And so I've always was interested in doing something in the medical profession. I love how you share the story about how your dad used to sign pharmacist paychecks. And it's like, that was what you should do. And so my mom said, nurses don't get paid enough, so you're going to be a pharmacist. She was a nurse. And I'm not kidding. That was like how my decision was made. So, but I always knew, like, emulating and looking at my grandfather, I was always between something in the medical field, just didn't know what. And then as I advanced into pharmacy school and just my actual, you know how we had to write like a short introduction paper for pharmacy school about like, basically our cover letter, essentially, or why we're interested. And it was all about my sister and her seizures because there was a 10-year age gap. And so I always was like, I'm going to take kids in some capacity, kids with seizures. And so that's how that kind of ties all together. Fast forward, I went to Rutgers, did the 6-year program, did residency for just a year at Jefferson, which is like the old school. Most pediatric pharmacists have 2 years. Then I landed a job at CHOP and was there for 3 years. And then I started like their patient care role with a couple other pharmacists. And after 3 years, I went back to where I was a pharmacy technician back in the day. As a student for 5 years, I went back and my boss called me one day and was like, do you want to start our patient care clinical pediatric role? And I was like, absolutely. So did that collectively for 11 years. And then I realized once things get like up and running and functional and I start something new, after it's like running smoothly, I get bored and then I have to do something else. So I realized as I was working in the hospital at that time, that it never felt natural to leave these chronic kiddos or kids that were a little bit more complex that needed more love from a medical medication management standpoint. It never felt natural just to leave them as they got discharged. So over the years, I just started like working with parents, quite frankly, for free. I would just give them my number because they would be in every couple of months. They were the ones that, you know, were quite frequently in our PICU or our Gen Peds. And so I would just make these connections and I would work with them in the outpatient setting to get their meds right. Then fast forward, I realized when I started doing some digging that there was no pediatric pharmacist in the AmCare space, irregardless of what state you're in, with a few exceptions of CF clinics, or if you have a massively huge children's institution. Sometimes I would say like less than 1%, there may be like a one-off AmCare pediatric pharmacist, but that's not the standard. And so my goal was, and hence the birth of my business, to make pediatric pharmacists omnipresent, regardless of, you know, whether you're a patient, you're a provider, you're a pharmacist. If you need something, because of our unique training, that will be there as your clinical expert.
So that leads you to the point. So you've been in the hospital for a long time and you see a need in the community. And it's like one of those things like, man, someone's really got to take care of these kids after we discharge them. what made you start your company, and how did that start unfolding, that you go from solidly a W-2 employee to starting an empire?
Yeah, so to get through, a very important weird piece of my history was that when my daughter was one, Peyton, my firstborn, I realized that like I needed some sort of flexibility, that working 5 days, but really what it really was a lot of times I was home late. Like if a kid coded, I couldn't be like, oh, I'm going to clock out and go home. Like, what kind of person does that? So it'd be like at least one day a week, I'd be stuck in the code till like 7, 8 p.m. And then when I started the program, I was by myself. So I was on call like 24/7. I remember so many times like at night trying to get her to sleep, breastfeeding her. I'll get like a call from a resident because the pharmacist inpatient didn't feel comfortable verifying, say it's hypertonic for a traumatic brain injury. Well, you can't delay that. That's like such a time sensitive thing. So I'd be like logging on my computer while breastfeeding. It was just like, and so I was like, there's got to be a way to balance this better. And so I was like, you know what? If I play hardball and go part-time, my boss is going to have to start training people and getting new people in. And so I did. It didn't go over well in the beginning. And then to do that, I was like, all right, I need an extra stream of revenue because I wasn't at a point where I wanted to make sacrifices financially. So I started doing direct sales for skincare, oddly enough. I did that for 3 years, and it actually was the best thing for me. I mean, you work as a team, so you learn, really what it means to be part of a team and really add and just work together with people that are like-minded. And then on top of that, you have to be in a great mindset and like love your product, right? So if you don't love your product, you can't be a good salesman. And if you're in a crappy mindset, no one's going to buy from you, right? So then I took that and was like, well, I have the sales background, the entrepreneurial background, and there's this need. And my biggest passion is pediatrics. I did that, quite frankly. I like the skincare, but I was just more passionate about sales than anything else, which I know we've talked about because, sales is fun. So it was just marrying my sales with my love for pediatrics. And I started just asking around locally, like, hey, do you have a clinical pharmacist in, this facility? Do you have a clinical pharmacist in that? And the long answer short was no. So I went in and was a saleswoman and just said, you have somebody doing this job and I'm going to do it better. And here's my expertise that I offer. And I know a bunch of other pediatric pharmacists. So if you need more manpower, I can do that too. And so because I just walked in areas that were already, had the finances aside, but just they didn't have the clinical expertise that we had, that's how I got some of my bigger contracts that made it more of a sustainable income. Then once I got them, ironically, was when my hospital made me come back 6 weeks postpartum with my third, and I just said, see you later. They were great to me. I can't say enough wonderful things sincerely about my boss. So it wasn't like one of those like, oh, but it was just, I knew that there was a need. There's no flexibility in the hospital. And like, I always was like a visionary where always had all these ideas of how I wanted to change pediatric pharmacy. And I'm like, just go do it because no one else is. So like, why not you? And, you changed a lot of pharmacists' lives with your PGX Confidence Academy and just how your entrepreneurism. And so you kind of get this imposter syndrome where like, oh my God, can I really do this? But yeah, so that's how eventually it all rolled into one. Once I got those facilities, I was like, all right, well, at least I have some like cushion now that if I leave, and then started taking private pay patients on, and then we started branching out to other states. So yeah, one thing went after another, and I have a couple exciting things that are cooking up right now. But yeah, I mean, everything takes a lot longer, but I kind of incubated it on the side for like 18 months before I actually went full-fledged into it because financially I needed some cushion.
Oh, yeah. And one of my favorite parts of this story, Jena, is that wasn't it like the week before or the week after you've actually formed your business is when you found out you were pregnant with your third child?
A week to date. So I had bought my LLC. I remember it for I was sitting outside, and actually I've always had a business coach. So before it was you, it was this wonderful girl, Lindsay Stafford, who was amazing. She was big in RNF, and she taught me, just like you, just so much actual tools, mindset, time management, all the things, using, being comfortable with saying, okay, I'll get a cleaner for my house. Something that's if you're going to work your butt off, then it's okay to ask for help and get people to do things that, that can let you get time back in your business, but more importantly, be a mom. So she taught me amazing things. And she was I said, I don't really want to be in the hospital anymore. She's like, well, what do you want to do? And I hadn't shared this idea with anybody. And it just came out like word vomit. She's like, okay. She's like, you could totally do that. And I didn't know this at the time, but my father-in-law, who's the nosy neighbor, I was out on the porch and he was in the house, and he was like, this is fabulous. You're going to do it. And I was like, so he kind of held me. He's always been super supportive of anything I've done. So she kind of held me accountable to my idea, because between my business coach and him, I was like, well, now I have to do it. At least try. And then, that next week, I found out after 2 fertility treatment babies that I was pregnant. And so, you're saying, I felt I was is this my sign, not to do it? And then I'm like, no, by the time I'm pregnant and she's, a couple years old, then I'll have some solid ground on my business. So I kind of thought about it the non-traditional way, because you're saying, could have been a way out. But I figured, you know what? Then I'll have a solid business by the time my girls get of the age, and then I can make it to all their sports events and do all the things and just flex up my time, because there's so many things I would have missed had I not, made that decision at that time, including at 6 weeks, I didn't have to go back to work. So, it was kind of even though the world probably was trying to tell me not to do it, I was like, nah, I feel I have as she incubates, I'll build up my business.
Well, I feel this happens all the time. As soon as we make a decision on anything, not even business related, just a decision to change or something that improves what we are, anything in our circumstances, it's instantly you're tested with it, and something comes up to say are you sure you're going to do that? Are you sure? And I think most people, if they found out they're pregnant, would be like, okay, this is a sign. It's not my time. That was a good idea, but it's not the good timing. And you're like, okay, I have 9 months to get this business up and running. There's my deadline. Here I go. And you didn't let that slow you down. And especially not even your first pregnancy, your third pregnancy, you let this obstacle actually be your momentum with a very good deadline. I remember talking to you right before this baby's born, and you're like, I got to get my team in place because I'm going on maternity leave and I need this company to run itself. And so you used a very strong deadline to build a kind of company from day one that doesn't require you to do every single thing. And I think that strong start and that willingness to okay, here we go. Let's build it fast and furious and pull in all the right people has helped you succeed so wildly. So Jena, talk to me about how you did this, because I'm still amazed. I watched you do it, but I'm still amazed at how you just pulled together an A team from day one. It was this business is happening. Here's the 10-year plan. I need help. So I'm not just going to wing it myself for years.
Yeah.
How did you do that, Jena?
Well, I felt in the beginning, I compared, me and my brother always used to, my brother borrowed all sorts of money growing up. And now the joke is he's the most well off. So we always equated to you're the Dumb and Dumber skit where you have the big suitcase of IOUs. And that's how I felt for the longest time, because I told 2 people that and you're 3, you included. So I got you, another girl who was actually my mentor, who I always joke scared the crap out of me because she was so smart. And she was a little scary. She's very stern. Still to date, even though I'm technically on the books as her boss, she scares me a little, and I'll tell her that. She's so smart. And then Simit, I needed somebody who was really good at sales. So he's an ex-pharmacist turned realtor. And then, my marketing team who actually contacted me via LinkedIn, I still use as a business strategy. So eventually I got everybody paid off, but it wasn't instantaneously. Like I was like, I'm doing this. I promise, like I'll give you equity. I'll do whatever, but I'm not going to be able to pay you right away. And so many people were so forgiving along the way. And then just like, for example, like if we have like a contract that I'm like, I don't really have expertise in this, like the whole value-based care thing that's coming up. And so I'm very interested in utilizing that because looking at our track record, we have a lot of cost savings and cost avoidance, and we're able to help all these STAR and HEDIS measures that everybody talks about. And I'm like, oh, this is great in theory, but how do I even do this? So, I've contacted 3 different people, other pharmacists that are around the country that actually have either worked at a managed care organization or have like specific training in HEDIS and public health and value-based contracts. And so it's really just like asking people like, can you help me? And it might not, as silly as it is, it might not be like monetarily that you can help them, but like, it's like they like, and it's funny, I asked for help and then like literally the next week he messaged me back. He needed something for his job. So it's like, that was pediatric specific. So there's always a way to make it work out. And I think if you're giving and you ask other people for help, eventually it all evens out. But really just finding people who are really strong at what I was weak at and just not being scared to ask the question. Like, perfect example, like David Medinoff, he's the CEO of Aspen RX. I literally messaged him last week and I'm like, can I pick your brain about a few things? He messaged me right back. He's like, of course. We jumped on a call. Like, he is so high up. He's a great businessman and I respect him. And same with you, like people who you emulate and where you want to be, what do you say, like are steps ahead of you, like just use them as like aspiration and then an inspiration and ask them for your help. And you'll be surprised how many people will help you.
How do you find these people, Jena? If someone listening is like, okay, that's cool, Jena. How do you just find people who can help you? How do you find them?
Well, this girl named Jamie Wilkey gave me the task. Oh my God. It was so begrudgingly. She's like, you have to post on LinkedIn at least 3 times a week. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I've never not wanted to do something, but I knew that you were watching me. So I was like, oh God. So then I just started like, and you always told me, don't overthink it. People want to build your business with you. So just start from like X, like I'm starting a business, and just be really vulnerable and say like, I have no customers. I don't know one of our clients or patients. I have no idea what I'm doing, but here's what I'm doing. And so I started just like posting. And then as you said would happen, organically, I started meeting and networking with these like amazing people who have changed my life probably more than I'm ever going to change theirs. But really it has been through just consistently posting on LinkedIn and building a network from there. Maybe I would have been able to build, locally, but like all the cool opportunities, like I just did a CE for like a couple thousand nurses. And then before that, I was on like ADHD, which was really cool. I've had like some really awesome opportunities. Like I just signed a contract for Baptiste Health in Florida through Scott, who's amazing.
Really?
Yeah, out in Florida. So like, that's how you like meet people. And then your guy, he's like, I'm building this wellness program. Like I need maternal health. Like, would you want to like fetal maternal health? Like, would you want to help educate my pharmacist on like the wellness piece of like during pregnancy and postpartum? And I was like, absolutely. That's like something I love. All these things have been because of LinkedIn. So if you're listening and you take one thing away, it doesn't have to be crazy and you don't have to overthink it. even if you start like 3 times a week is not a lot. And it probably took me like collectively like 15 minutes. And I know Jamie does the same thing, but I go in on Sunday night and I draft all my posts for the week. It probably takes me maybe an hour and I just schedule them out. And maybe I'll log in once and twice a day on LinkedIn. Same with like Instagram or Facebook for my Perfecting Peds business pages, but I'm not on there all the time. So, Jamie and I will be the first to tell you, you can use it and not be like sitting on it, feeling like you need to entertain people or take in all the content. That's absolutely not true.
Yeah, it's amazing who you can meet on LinkedIn. And I've been blown away by the people I've gotten access to that have always seemed unreachable, or like, this girl from Walgreens could never get in front of this decision maker. And the joy of LinkedIn is that you can get right to the right person and that they can see like what you're building in the world. And it's like you're building your resume in front of them. And so as soon as they think of like maternal health, oh, Jenna's my girl. That job's never going to be like, things like that aren't posted on Indeed.com that people apply for. It's like so much of life is who you know. And just being the person that like comes to mind for that specific topic, it makes yourself so invaluable. And that's where, man, like those LinkedIn DMs are where I've been getting all of my contracting opportunities. People just come to me and they're like, hey, Jamie, can you do this? And I'm like, oh, yeah, that sounds fun. I'm up for it. It's amazing.
And I met on LinkedIn. I remember somebody, so I was on a flight home I was on a retreat for my direct sales. And I was newly pregnant and I was like going to throw up. I was like thinking, so I went and sat at like the greasiest bar I could find for some like French fries. So I'm like, I'm going to throw up on the plane. And I heard 2 pharmacists talking behind me and I very like teasingly said like, could you guys shut up? I'm on vacation. And they like looked at me like for a second and I was like, I'm a pharmacist. They were talking about all pharmacy type things and they started laughing. And I don't even know why. They were asking what I was doing. I was like really hesitant to share, but then they were both independent pharmacy owners. So I was like, well, I kind of been thinking about like this business. And I was like, I don't really know what I'm doing. Like I just bought my LLC a couple weeks ago and they're like, there's 3 big names in pharmacy right now. This is what the woman said. Blair, you, and Christina. They're like, reach out and see if like you could get some one-on-one coaching. And so that's how we connected.
You were just so assertive and like you knew what you wanted. And most times people reach out via a message. They're like, mentor me. I'm like, go through one of my programs. That's how I teach people effectively. But Jen, I was like, oh, she's a kindred spirit. It's like talking to me 2 years ago. Like, I just want to be best friends with this girl. Like, yes. And without LinkedIn, I would never know you, which seems like a crime, Jenna.
I know. It does. Yeah. And it's like, it really has been like the best. Like Jaron, I'm thinking, well, there's a lot of people in Utah who I love, but there's so many people I've connected with that like, you're just so on the same page. And, half the battle of entrepreneurism is like, kind of white noising out all the really negative people in your life. And you don't even realize it, but like some people who I was friends with, like I kind of like our relationships like faded out. And when looking at it, like particularly this one person who I was so close with in high school, and I'm like, why? Why did that happen? I'm like, we're just like, they're not really a positive person. And so it just like, you organically just start being drawn to people who are like forward thinking, innovative, happy. And then you like, before you know it, then whether you're really energetic and happy and everything, it just starts happening. So I remember when I first met you, I'm like, holy crap, this girl is so happy.
It doesn't help that you were pregnant and feeling miserable.
But seriously, it is true though. Like if you start just like being, hanging around positive, like-minded people, it's so good for your soul.
It is good for your soul. And it just helps you think differently. And it's like you have someone safe to bounce ideas off of that gets you. Because I remember so many times working back in the retail setting and like, just talking, I even remember distinctly one time, like years before I even thought about entrepreneurship, saying something like, well, we're never going to get rich clocking in and out to a job. If you really want to be wealthy, you have to start your own business. And all the pharmacists were like, yeah, but you can't do that as a pharmacist. Like, obviously that would be stupid. And I was like, yeah, that would. Like, you can't do that. And now if I told Jena that, she'd be like, what? You crazy? Of course you can. And like, just the general like feelings and outlook, I didn't realize how much it affected me until I started talking to new people and like different kinds of pharmacists who aren't just clocking in and out till their time is up and then they finally having break.
And it's you don't even realize it, but you like irregardless. I mean, some people just get jaded, and and like even through this, like talking to people, like they're like, good luck doing that, and you're like, okay, well that's why I'm not going to hang around you. All right, sounds good. Thank you for the good luck, but like that's fine. They're going to have those people, and like just like you just remain stupidly optimistic and probably unintentionally piss people off. You're so optimistic, but like it's like you're just determined. Like this is going to happen. Like you can either be like join me and be a cheerleader with me, or you can like I'm probably just going to like limit my time with you if I can. It's just, or else, it's just so powerful for your mindset.
It's so cool because you can control it now with the internet. You can meet the right people and like start those relationships, and it's completely in your control. Before, even when we graduated, like back in the dark ages, before really robust social media, like you were locked into your geography or like your state or your city. And unless you were like intentionally flying out to national conferences, which I never did, I wasn't cool.
No.
You just don't know people. But now with the internet, you can get in front of anyone, and it really is like completely up to you. It's free. All you need is an internet connection and like a phone, and you can connect with anyone in the world. So you have no excuse for not building your own tribe of support and people who are just a little ahead of you that make you stretch and that are doing exactly what you want to do.
Yeah, agreed, 100%.
You're obviously a wealthy white coat because you're a wealth of knowledge and of optimism. You're a wealth of change. What are you doing right now that gives you the most energy, that makes you most excited about what it is you're building?
I think obviously I always have my girls at heart, right? So like I want to show them, like if you have this crazy idea, like I look at my firstborn and she's very much like me, and my mom and dad they're so supportive, but they were so like, you go to school, you graduate with the highest degree, and you work that job forever. And so like not that I don't want to say don't be a pharmacist, but if you have, like, if you're someone who's super creative and has these ideas, like, go for it. Like, I want to show them you can do it. And so, like, what excites me the most is, it's like we have cost savings and cost avoidance. That stuff is, like, the bottom of the barrel for me. But what I see, like, most in my business is, like, the actual changes we're able to make for the patient when I think, oh, my God, what if we weren't here? You know what I mean? Like, I'm actually staring at this kid's profile right now on the screen over, and what if I didn't do the PGX test? Like the most gratifying thing, I was on behavior rounds yesterday, and I recommended like to start, like nobody's comfortable medicating a 6-year-old, right? This kid has had debilitating OCD, yada yada yada. Like I was the one that was like, guys, we've tried. Exposure response, cognitive behavior. We've tried everything. And like, I would just keep thinking like, what if I wasn't there? And like, fast forward 5 weeks, they're like, he's thriving. He's able to go to school now. He's able, like these adorable kids who, live in this facility, but you want to make their quality of life the best possible. Right. So I just think of like all the changes my team and I are able to make on a daily basis, even if it's something as silly as like, oh, we were able to change, a capsule. We were able to find suspension that was compounded for this kid who can't swallow and has been fighting their parents. It can be so small, but it's just like, each kid that we helped that previously didn't have our services keeps me going.
I love that. Well, thank you for your bravery and your dedication and just blazing new trails without a clear outline and saying like, I'm just going to figure this out. Our kids need this. kids are not getting the right care. If I don't do it, who will? Thank you for that, doing that for our kids. Because as a mom of 4 boys, our kids need it. And I need you. Jen, I'm always texting Jenna like my own medication questions because I might be a pharmacist, but I don't know this stuff. So
that was a funny story.
The world needs you, Jenna. Thank you so much.
No, but honestly, on a sincere note, like if you're listening, keep supporting Jamie. She's amazing. She was my cheerleader from day one when I said, like, I have this crazy idea. I bought my LLC, but that's literally where it ended. Like, I didn't know, how am I going to get the contracts? How am I going to get the legal work? And Jamie was like, this is what you're going to do. Also to note, because Jamie inspired me, she made me dump my brain between her and me. We did the clinical pharmacist course, if you have any interest. But yeah, so I partnered with Jamie. What's better than partnering with your mentor? But yeah, so I mean, thank you, Jamie, for showing me. Like, I remember when I looked at you, I was like, in your profile, I'm like, this girl's just like, gets it. She's just running with this idea. And like, once you see somebody doing that, your idea seems like, well, she's doing it. As long as you think about it in the right way. Like if she's doing it, I could totally do this too. Cause look what she's doing. So thank you.
Yeah. It's a fun time to be alive and to be attracting some really cool best friends in your life that I'm just want you to remember me in 10 years when you're giving keynote addresses and talking about the waves you've created in pharmacy and the paths you opened. Jena, where can people learn more and follow you?
Yeah, so Jena Quinn on LinkedIn or Facebook or Instagram. And then we have our Perfecting Peds LinkedIn page, Facebook page, and Instagram, which Jamie has always inspired me to work smarter and make sure I'm utilizing. So I have my Rutgers grads. I check the posts, but they really run that page, the Perfecting Peds page. So we're just giving you anything and everything maternal and pediatric health related information at no cost. Really, we're just trying to be louder than like all the stupid Facebook groups out there.
I love it. You're counteracting a lot of health misinformation of parents sharing kind of scary things. And we'll put all of those links below so you can just click on them and stay in tune with Jena and what she's doing. Thank you for joining us, Jena. And if you like this interview and this interview style, let me know. Email me at jamie@wealthywhitecoat.com. I'd love your feedback. For the first 8 episodes, it was just me talking, but I love bringing in my friends and especially spectacular ones like Jena who are really changing the game, and think you'd enjoy hearing from them too. So if you're loving it, send me an email and let me know, and I'll keep more of this coming. Thank you. Have a good one.